All right, it's time for me to make my weekly YouTube video. And they have not got me down yet. But let me tell you, yeah, I am on another operating system. I'm on Linux Mint. Yeah, I totally removed Ubuntu from my computer. Or I should say Linux Ubuntu 24.04, because it just had too many bugs. I couldn't do copy and paste. So I'm on Mint. To be honest with you, I really liked Ubuntu until I started having computer trouble this month. It was compatible with all my apps. This was Ubuntu 20.04, which is Zach put on my computer in September, or was it August 2021. And it has been great with my Logitech Webcam Pro 9000 webcam, my old 2009, I believe it is, Hewlett-Packard monitor, and my motherboard, which is from 2014, I believe. Even though Zach gave me the motherboard, put the motherboard on my computer in 2021, it's apparently a model from about 2014 or 2015. Because I've done research on it. I had to. So I have two working operating systems in my computer right now, which, well, as you all know, what happened was right about the time of my birthday, Sun Tzu decided to give me a lovely birthday present. I'm 68 years old now. Right about the time of my birthday, everything started. I went to bed at night and I heard these loud squeal coming from my computer. At first, I thought it was the fan, but I figured out, and I cleaned my fan area real good. It didn't, and I figured out that my computer was very slow. And that when your computer's slow, it can go slow because it's overheating. It can also be slow because one of your hard drives is about to crash. So yeah, I figured out that my HDD hard drive was about to crash, and it was making that noise. And I've had several external hard drives. They were all HDD, okay, that crashed in the past year. So I'm getting used to knowing how they act like when they're about to crash. Well, one of the things that happens when an external is about to crash is you will start hearing rattling noises coming from it. And yeah, I've noticed that it'll make strange noises. Yeah, so if you're hearing any strange noises coming from your hard drives, that's especially if it's kind of like rattling and a really loud rattling or a squeal, you better back up your data right then and there. That's what I learned. See, I didn't know that at first. Yeah, but I had one hard drive crash on me, and I didn't realize it was giving me symptoms of failure, right? So I didn't bother to back up the data on that hard drive. And I noticed when I tried to mount it, sometimes it wouldn't mount. And I didn't think anything of that. I'm a lot smarter about computers now than I was like 8 months ago. One day, I came to my computer and it wouldn't mount at all. It was just gone on my screen. Nothing I did would get it back. It crashed. That's what happened. And I lost all the data on it. Fortunately, I did have another backup available, but I didn't have everything backed up. And some very important Skype conversations that were not backed up, I had to go to Skype. At that time we had Skype, and download a transcript, and I had to kind of recreate what I lost, but it wasn't as good as what I lost. Yeah. So I learned my lesson from that. So what I did, see, I am such a heavy computer user that I have to work off of external hard drives. Like when I make my daily walk video, they're really starting to add up. They're taking a lot of space on my computer. So when I make my daily walk video, I I back them up to an external hard drive. The problem is, if that's the only backup I have. So if that backup fails, I'm going to lose it. So I went and bought a 6 terabyte external hard drive. And I regularly back up stuff from all my drives onto the 6 terabyte drive, and it has everything from the hard drives on my computer plus the external hard drives that are attached to my computer. So I've got quite a complicated setup here. Yeah, but I've got a really good system now going where I do my own backup. I do not do online backups because I've had some bad experiences with that. If I use an online backup, the Jesuits always take over the online backup company, and they start sending stuff to my computer through the online backup company. So, yeah, I can't do that. So the good news is that they have not gotten me down yet. You know, Jesus did make it a Gail commandment for me to make a weekly YouTube video, and he apparently knew I would be able to do it. He never gives us a command we can't do. So, oh yeah, so okay. So I started noticing, I thought, oh, this is good. At the end of July, I made a bootable installation media, okay? So I could install the new Ubuntu 24.04. I thought the hard part would be to figure out how to install the new drive into my computer. That was the easy part. Well, kind of hard. Well, the old drive is still in there. It's just not plugged into the motherboard or to the power source. I'm afraid to take it out because it's pretty well integrated into the computer case. And so I'm just leaving it there like decoration, okay? Besides, I'm getting now solid state drives. That was an HDD drive, okay? And they're smaller. And I actually had to order a special case to hold the smaller drives in. So I put in a solid state drive, SATA, because I have to, because that's what's compatible with my motherboard. And I put the Ubuntu 24.04, and I thought, and then I set up the operating system. The easy part was putting the drive into my computer. The hard part was dealing with what the enemy, I guess I'm assuming that Sun Tzu and the Jesuits, did to all the apps and to the operating system. At first I thought, oh, this is great, you know, my computer's running so fast. With solid state drive, you're going to be a little bit faster than HDD, right? But I did notice that the fonts were very thin in 24.04. I said, I think I like the older fonts that I had with 20.04 better. So I downloaded classic fonts, and I noticed it didn't have a brightness controller. So I decided to try to see if I could download an app for a brightness controller. Well, that's when everything started going haywire. I mean, and I thought I had problems with not having a brightness controller. Actually, I could have lived with the amount of brightness I had, and the night light was working. But after I finagled around, and I guess did all the downloads to try to improve the fonts, because I didn't like the thin fonts, and the brightness controller, all of a sudden, my computer started acting like it was, my operating system, I should say, started acting like it was possessed. Now, all my fonts looked grainy and out of focus, and if I went to Gmail, they were all crazy. My Clementine music player app started shrinking and getting smaller, microscopic, where I had to use, this is why I have this by the computer, a magnifying glass to read everything. All of my video editors, I couldn't read what I needed to. I use a video editor, obviously. I've got a 2011 webcam, right? It is plug and play, but I need something to create an MP4 file or a WebM file or whatever that I can put into my video editor. So all of my apps, my video editors, everything were crazy. Like my Kdenlive, it would pop up onto the screen, and I wouldn't be able to shrink it to see the bottom so I could move the controller to edit it. it was crazy. It was like one thing after another. And I thought, oh no, this new Ubuntu 24.04 is not very user-friendly. The fonts are getting fuzzier by the day. I attempted to, nothing I did fixed it. They said, reset the fonts, set it back to the way it was, factory standard, and all that. Nothing worked. Nothing worked. Nothing fixed the fonts. Once they decided to go bad, they stayed bad. Apparently, when I downloaded the classic fonts, which is what I think I had on Ubuntu 20.04, or the core fonts that came with, nothing worked. Finally, I have concluded that Sun Tzu and the enemy did something to the operating system itself. To make matters worse, even copy and paste quit working. Now that's an essential for me as a writer, and even I use that a lot, okay? Even copy and paste quit working. Finally, I said, go buy another solid state drive and let's try Linux Mint, another operating system, because it looks like, oh, but before I did that, I had a really close call. Before I did that, I thought I would do what they call in Windows the equivalent of a system recovery, which was I was just going to start all over and just download the same operating system. But in the middle of doing so, when I had the installation media in there, some symbols came down and said, kill, kill. Actually, let me tell you what I think happened. That could have been a good deity, which probably would have been a good thing, because I would have wiped out what I had done, and I would not have had an operating system with which to make another bootable media. So I'm glad they stopped me if that was a deity. It could have also been, I have learned, okay, that if you're going to install a new operating system on a disk that already has an operating system on it, the safest, best way to do it is to format the disk first, and probably format it down to zeros. So that is what I did wrong. So I think if I had done that, I might have been able to get a fresh install of Ubuntu 24.04. But I'm actually glad that kind of messed up and I didn't do that, because I don't think that would have solved my problems. Another problem I was having with 24.04 is that my video editors were really, I'm working off of GovCView right now on Linux Mint, okay? GovCView, I couldn't get any version of it to work until I finally used the apt version. The snap version didn't work, the one from the PPA didn't work. The only one on Ubuntu 24.04 that works is the one from the apt, and it only works at lower resolutions. Like if you try to do 1280 by 720, it does not work. Yeah. So I thought, wow, this operating system has really gotten messed up. And then Webcamoid wouldn't work at all. So I decided to officially give up on it and try another operating system. So on a very rainy day, I decided to go out to Best Buy and buy me another SATA solid-state drive to install Linux Mint on, okay? I was very lucky. They used brain control on me when I went out to Best Buy to get, I went out to Best Buy and they were not open yet, so I decided to check out Office Depot. Office Depot happened to have the drive. They were next door to them. And so I bought it from them. They used brain control on me to get me to put it in the same bag that I had my water bottle, okay? And the water bottle was leaking a little bit. And it was raining outside. When I left, it was kind of dry. I mean, it was just like a light mist. I had waterproof bags, so I thought, oh, I can handle this. I really want to have a nice operating system. The Linux Ubuntu is spooking me out. It's doing, I can't do copy and paste. All my apps are hard to work with. So I decided to risk it and go out in the rain. And I was very lucky. I made it home without getting any water on the new operating system. So I mounted it into my computer. I put it into my computer, right? Attached it to the motherboard, powered it up, and I was able to install Linux Mint onto it. It was the installation was a little buggy though. Okay, that was Cinnamon. It was a little buggy. So it's like somebody didn't want me to do this, but I was able to do it. Okay, once I got Cinnamon on, I noticed that it seemed to be much more friendly to my apps, the apps that I like to use. And like I'm working off of Cinnamon right now. And so I said, wow, and the fonts were crystal clear. The pictures were crystal clear. I thought, this is great. And I was going to just leave it at that. I was even able to get my brother printer to work the scanner. The printer doesn't really work. It's not the computer's fault. It's the printer's old. It's the same printer that I bought in 2012, right? It's a brother printer, but the scanner works. I go to Staples or the library to print. And I thought, at first I thought, well, just leave it the way it is and not worry. At least now you've got to back up that kind of stinky Ubuntu 24.04. Then it occurred to me, hey, why don't you format the disk? Save all your data, okay? Save all your files. Format the disk for that horrible Ubuntu 24.04 where you can't fix the fonts and all the other problems, and you can't, where it's obviously got some sort of bug or something, I don't know. I actually think Sun Tzu destroyed the Linux Ubuntu 24.04 kernel for me. So I thought, why don't you just format that disk down to zeros, start all over with a fresh install of another Mint operating system. So I decided to try Mate. I was debating between that and XFCE, and I decided to go with Mate because that seemed like that would work better with my apps. Oh, let me tell you. It took about 4 hours to format that disk. That was a brand new SATA solid state drive that I bought about 3 weeks ago. It took me about 4 hours to format it down to zeros, which is normal when you're going to go down to zeros, okay? But they say that's probably the safest thing to do if you're going to put a new operating system on it. And then, of course, I made another bootable media for the Linux Mint Mate. The installation was really weird. Somebody doesn't want me to install Linux Mint. It took me forever to install it. The computer was doing weird things. When I finally got to the screen where it was giving you the slideshow as it was being installed, right in the middle of the slideshow, the screen turned black. And I could say, what? The screen just turned black. But I could tell by listening to my computer that the installation was still going on. I thought, this is really weird. And the screen turned black. And I said, I'm not going to know when it's done. So I said, well, let's just wait about a half an hour or 45 minutes. And it's probably still going. And after that, I still heard the noises. So I thought, you know what, something's not right here. But I had a black screen. So I didn't realize it. Probably the best thing for me to do at that time was hit the power button on the computer and just hold it down and do a hard shutdown. But I just unplugged it because I didn't know what else to do. I unplugged the computer. That's definitely not a good idea, okay? But I didn't know what else to do. I had a black screen. Okay. So I put the bootable media back, the little USB stick back in the computer, powered the computer back on, and lo and behold, the operating system started coming up, the new one, okay? It was showing up on my solid state drive that I had erased Ubuntu from. So I thought, wow, it worked. I said, wow. And another weird thing that happened is during the installation, I got this message on the screen telling me something had to be removed. So some minor file or something. That didn't happen to me when I put in Cinnamon. That was with Mate. So, but the good news is it did come up. Then I had booting. I didn't know how to do this. Oh, I forgot to mention, I wanted to make sure that I didn't accidentally erase my Cinnamon drive. So I unplugged it, okay? But I forgot to mention this. At first I tried to boot off of the USB stick, okay, to start the installation, and nothing was happening. It wouldn't listen. It wouldn't boot. It was doing nothing. It was. So I thought, okay, it looks like I need another operating system in there to fool this computer into thinking that it needs to boot or something. So I plugged in the really bad one that was about to crash, but I forgot to plug it into the motherboard, but maybe it doesn't matter. And then but it was powered up. And then I put in the bootable media. They were using some brain control on me, that had the installation, that had the operating system I wanted to install. And I finally got it. I finally got the installation to start happening, where they were telling me, to install it. And I was going through the prompts and doing everything. And like I said, it went smooth until I got the slideshow when it was being installed. But oh man! Installing Ubuntu 24.04 was so easy. But somebody didn't want me to do Mint. But anyways, yeah. You might say, well, what did you do? Well, you're supposed to be able to boot off the stick, the USB stick, but it wouldn't boot. Yeah. So anyways, but I finally, or maybe it was booting and I couldn't tell. So the good news is that now I had 2 operating systems, Cinnamon and Mate, from Mint. Now I had to go fix the boot. I knew the Cinnamon was there. Okay, so when I turned on the computer back on, I saw the Mate there. And I kind of played around with it. So I said, it seems like it's working fine. I said, well, where's my Cinnamon? So I tried restarting the computer, and the only thing that came up was an option to hit enter and go into Mate. So I thought, oh, I lost Cinnamon in the boot process? So I said, let's hit F11 and get the boot menu to come up. So I hit the button many, many times. The boot menu came up and says, oh, there's Cinnamon. I got to arrow down to it. And it also says that it's got the operating system for Ubuntu 24.04. I don't want that one. Yeah. And that was funny because that one wasn't even plugged into the motherboard. And so I noticed they were both in my computer, but my boot menu seemed to be the only way I could go from one to the other was once I got in one, then I started restarting. I had to hit F11 all the time, and then I was able to get the boot menu to come up, and I could arrow down to the one I wanted. And finally I said, this is ridiculous. There's got to be an easier, more streamlined way to get them all to come up on one screen so I can just kind of like arrow down. Well, I figured it out. I did a search online, and they suggested that what you need to do, they said it's really easy, just do sudo apt upgrade-grub in your terminal for either operating system, and that'll solve your problem, and it did. Now it's really easy. So now when I go into the any of the operating systems and I do restart, an option will come up. It'll say, which one do you want to go to, Cinnamon or Mate? I arrow down, but you got to do it quick because the option leaves really quick. Yeah, and so I got that fixed. So yeah, I actually like having 2 operating systems. Let me tell you why. If one of the operating systems goes bad on you, but you have another one that works, you can use the one that works to go into the disk utility and wipe out the one that's bad. But if you only have one operating system on your computer and you're working with Linux, you really can't do that. I mean, how can you wipe out the bad system if it's the one that you're using to send the yeah. So yeah, I kind of like having 2. So now I've got 2. Then I thought, okay, you got two working operating systems, though one's kind of screwed up. But see, at first I wasn't going to get rid of Ubuntu, but like I said, I got rid of it, and I've got Mate on there now. I went into Mate, and I said, you know what, this one is not as good as Cinnamon, so I'm going to keep it. It's a backup. It's very similar to Cinnamon, but it's got a little bit more bugs in it than Cinnamon, so I like Cinnamon better. Yeah, I have enough memory on my computer that I can handle Cinnamon. You may say, what's wrong with Mate? Well, one thing I don't like is when I go into a folder, I like to see my recent files, and it doesn't give me that option anywhere. The same thing with Cinnamon, but I'm going to come up with some tricks to work around those. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Another thing I like about Mint is I got Webcamoid to work on Mint. It wasn't working at all on 24.04 Ubuntu. The only problem with Webcamoid is the last couple seconds just mutes off. But I can fix that easily in the video editing. But my favorite video editor to use right now is GovCView. With Ubuntu 20.04, my favorite was Webcamoid. So I am in business. They did not stop me. So yeah. And I've given myself quite a computer education. It was very frustrating, though, trying to install Mate. I stayed up far too late. Yeah, but I got it done. And now I have two operating systems, working operating systems. I have abandoned Ubuntu. Unfortunately, it was a great operating system before Sun Tzu invaded it and did something awful to it. He has ruined Ubuntu. It used to be so good. Yeah, I'm hoping my men can fix it. But it appears Sun Tzu has ruined Ubuntu. They use some sort of Wayland graphics driver or some graphics environment that is totally incompatible with my hardware and the software I like to use. Yeah. Computers seem to be designed that they expect you to buy new stuff every 3 years or none of it's going to work, which I think is ridiculous. Anyways, you guys, it's been a frustrating week, computer-wise, but I think I can finally get back to what I planned on doing with, I can have one day where I work on the Gail Series, one day where I work on my cooking, and I can get away from being obsessed with the computer. But at least I also have battery backup, which I got because one of the reasons the hard drive crashed is because Sun Tzu kept giving me power outages. That is not good for your motherboard or your hard drives. And it eventually destroyed a lot of my drives. I think that's the reason 2 of my externals crashed and why one internal was about to crash. Fortunately, I caught it before it crashed, so I was able to salvage things. So I'm still here. I'm in a much better much more secure position computer-wise than 2 months ago. I've got a battery backup. I did have surge protection, but it was old from about 2009. So it was probably time for me to get another one anyway. And I have a battery backup with surge protection now for my computer system. And I have 2 brand new solid-state SATA drives. The solid-state SATA drives should hopefully be nicer to my motherboard. And I'm hoping now that I'll be good on this computer for maybe another 7 years. We shall see. That was my goal. That way, by that time, I might be done with the Gail series. So yeah, that's been my week. I've been busy on the computer, but I've given myself quite a computer education. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to get, I actually need, I've got 4 terabytes worth of solid state drive in there right now. 2 solid state drives in there, each 2 terabytes each, right? You say, oh my God, well, yeah, I make daily walk videos, right? I do a ton of writing. Yeah, I need a lot of space to store media. So it's I kind of almost have to custom design my own computer. So that's what I've done. Yeah. Anyways, I hope everybody's having a good week. They have not put me out of commission yet, computer-wise. I'm still here to drive them crazy with my Gail series and my weekly YouTube videos.
In a world of secrets where darkness reigns, there's a